When I was a kid, my parents gave me a Road Atlas of America. It was a big hardcover book, full of beautiful pictures and maps of the country and of all 50 states. It had interesting information about population, industry, main crops, sights to see, and I loved that book. I spent a lot of time with it. I would measure out distances between cities and states and how long it would take me to drive. And I vowed that one day when I grew up, I would do that. I would take that drive, take a road trip around and see all of America. In the pursuing years, I've lost that book, but I never lost the dream. Now, many years later, it took me a long time, but I finally fulfilled that dream. Travel along with me on my road trip around America.
And in this episode, I traveled through 6 different states, continuing my journey north along the Mississippi River. I stop one night in Indianapolis, Indiana. Then we stop in Chicago, Illinois. Then move into Wisconsin to visit a cheese castle. Oh, in Chicago is a museum. Then one of the most beautiful cities in America, Madison, Wisconsin. And then I take this drive through part of half of Iowa that is one of the most beautiful drives in America. Then we start our climb northwest into Minnesota to see a mental health institution that's 100 years old, very castle-esque. And finally, I end this episode in Fargo, North Dakota, finishing the swing north. Then we're going to be going west from here. Let's do the intro. Okay, so in the last episode, I left St. Louis and started traveling further north, and I spent one night in Indianapolis, Indiana. I don't really have anything in Indiana to show you, and I'm sorry about that. If you're an Indiana native, it's a beautiful state. But our real goal here is the Institute of Art in Chicago. Now, they have a spectacular display of medieval and Renaissance weapons and armor. So let's do that. And I noticed that, I don't know if it was just a coincidence of the weather, but once I started getting close to Chicago, there's a lot of steel, there's a lot of power plants, and the weather turned gloomy, cloudy and overcast and a little rainy. And maybe it was a coincidence, or maybe that's just kind of happens a lot in Chicago. It's the steel, a lot of steel. There it is. You can see the city off in the distance there. Can you see it on the horizon there? The buildings of Chicago. But I did enjoy Chicago. They were having a festival called the Taste of Chicago when I went to that. And it was quite a bit different. Chicago's got its own flavor. And you can see it's a wet day. But I enjoyed people watching and just walking around the city. And here I was in my car, but I spent some time walking around the city, visiting various sites downtown. And our real goal here is there on the right. You can see those lions. See those lion statues on the right? That is the Institute of Art of Chicago. And that's our real goal. But before we get to that, I'm actually going to take a walk across to a park to visit the world-famous bean. It's a sculpture that was a bit controversial, but it's quite beautiful, and people love that sculpture. I love it too. So yeah, isn't that something that's just amazing? It's called the Bean. It has another name, but it's in a little park, a nice little plaza. It's just very photographic, set against the background of the old Chicago buildings. Isn't that something? So I enjoyed spending an hour or so there, walking around it, walking underneath it, and just taking pictures of the different angles that it cast. The mirror cast different angles. There's my favorite picture right there. I like that picture because it shows a lot. But we're going to go to the Art Institute of Chicago, and because there's really some spectacular stuff here when it comes to medieval things. And any world-class museum like this always has this beautiful, wide-open foyer, the beginning part when you enter the museum, and I don't know why they do that, but they all do it. But our goal here is the Deering family galleries, medieval and Renaissance art, arms, and armor, and this is just spectacular. My gratitude to the Deering family for what they've done here, just amazing. There's lots of suits of beautiful suits of armor, and just it goes on and on. I'll show you maybe a dozen pictures of various things. Now that horse isn't real, but the armor is real. Look at that. So if you were in the Chicago area and you like medieval stuff, go there. And there's a rarity is a wooden shield. You don't see too many of those because the wood, doesn't last the centuries. Some basket-hilted broadswords. And one of my favorites is the gun shield. That's an actual gun in a shield. And I really love these quirky weapons that some of these museums have from the past. Look at the one on the left and the one in the center. We're going to look closer at it. The one in the center is a walking stick with a war hammer and a wheel-lock pistol. Just a very unique combination weapon. And there's a rapier with double wheel-lock pistols on it, down below there at the bottom part, of the blade part. And this book here is a 1630 book called The Academy of the Sword. It's very rare and very valuable. So the Art Institute of Chicago just has a lot of the Deering family gallery just is magnificent. If you're into medieval arms and the Renaissance period and the medieval period and weapons and stuff, you really want to check out this museum. I love it. And and they cover a lot of ground. There's so much more stuff that I haven't shown you. And they even had, some museums might have an Elfberg. They have two of them. So that was quite something. Okay, so we're going to be moving on. We get a lot of territory to cover. Moving into Wisconsin, because there is a cheese castle that I wanted to see. And it was right on the way, so I figured I'd stop in just for fun. It's called the Mars Cheese Castle. I almost missed it. I couldn't find it. My GPS wasn't giving me the right address for it, and then I got lucky. Getting back on the highway, I found it. There it is, the Mars Cheese Castle. It's called what is it called? The Mars Cheese Castle. It took me a bit to find it. There we go. I'm going to go in and get some cheese. It'll be fun. Cheese is just one of those gifts that we've been given. Cheese it's just amazing. It really is. And Wisconsin is the cheese state, but they've got it all decked out like a castle. It's kind of cute. You can take photos and stuff. And the variety of cheese, this is nothing. This is just one refrigerator of cheese. I ended up getting myself some jalapeno cheese, and it was really good. But let's move on from the Mars Cheese Castle. And I did notice that, the terrain is starting to change in America. The whole East Coast, the whole east part of the country is kind of one thing, and there are differences, when you're talking down in Louisiana and stuff like that. But I notice a distinct change. We're starting to see less rugged terrain, less trees and less forest, and we're starting to move into the plains states. And now here I'm heading towards Madison, Wisconsin, and I went there because there's a place called the Morgridge Center that I wanted to see. But it's also known as the Red Gym. But I was really, really shocked by how beautiful Madison, Wisconsin is. It really is, and the video doesn't really do it justice, but it's a university town. It's very well maintained. There's a lot of beautiful buildings and beautiful landscaping. There's a lake. I just was shocked by Madison. This is one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cities I've seen so far anyway in America. But the only thing about it is being way up north there in Wisconsin, I'm thinking, 6 months out of the year, maybe more, it's probably pretty cold. So when the weather is good, which was a beautiful day that I was in Wisconsin, I think I spent one day and one night there. It was a really beautiful day. I was really very thrilled by it. But here's the Red Gym. And let me see. It was built in 1894, and it was used as an armory and a gymnasium for the University of Wisconsin. And it was designed in the Romanesque Revival style. And that red brick is really quite unique, because we're going to look at another Romanesque Revival style building that was built with, I think, granite. And even though they're in the same styles, they look very different just because of the stonework. But there's the lake behind it. So if you're in the area and you're looking for well, maybe in summer, you're looking for a place to visit, I would say Madison, Wisconsin is just well worth the trip. It's beautiful. People were happy. It was a beautiful day. It's a beautiful city. I can't say enough about it. Let's take some more pictures. Look at those. Are those buttresses? So look at that, huh? You know, this place has a long history. Now it's used as something called, let me think, it's the Mortgage Center. I think it's like a student relations kind of center. You know, it served various purposes, and the beautiful doors, they're probably original. So then from there, I took right out of Madison, I took Route 18 west across about half of Iowa. It was about a 200-mile drive, and I would have to say, and this is, I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but this is one of the most beautiful drives in America. And in a subtle way, a lot of rolling hills, a lot of farmland, a lot of corn, you know, windmills and grain silos and cattle, and it's just, this is a beautiful drive. It's on my website. I have this as listed as one of the most beautiful drives in America. You know, just gorgeous country. And I noticed too that we're transitioning from one type of terrain in America to the eventually, starting in the next video, the plains states. So see the corn there, I think on the left and on the right. But there were other kinds of crops too. I don't know what they were, alfalfa and, you know, just different crops. It was just, at some point I may do this drive again. I'd say it's among the best 200 miles of nothing in particular that I've ever done. You know, I didn't make any stops. I drove all the way. I drove the whole 200 miles in one day. I think it took me, I forget, 4 or 5 hours. I was in no particular hurry, you know. But I loved it, the whole thing. You know, not a big highway. Magnificent. So kudos to Iowa for its beauty. And Iowa is a very understated state. You know, you don't ever hear anything about Iowa. It's never any trouble there or anything. Or, you know, Iowa's just does its thing, I guess, you know. Oh, Mason City, I think it was. Mason City. But from there, I'm heading north into Minnesota. And I stopped in 3 different places, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and St. Cloud, to see some castles. And this is called the Landmark Center. It was completed in 1902, and this is the other building that's also in the Romanesque Revival style. Isn't that beautiful? I love that building. And it looks so much different than the Red Gym, even though they're both in the same style. This is pink granite ashlar, and it was originally used as a state post office, courthouse, and customs house. Then I stopped at a place called the American Swedish Institute, and that's it on the left and on the right. The left there, that new structure, is kind of the new structure, but that's actually the Swan Turnblad Mansion. It was built in a chateau-esque style, which is a revival style of architecture based on the French Renaissance. It was completed in the 1910 and is made of Bedford limestone. It's also known as the Swedish Castle. It's kind of cool. I like it. It's almost got a little bit of a troubadour feel to it. Little bit. Then it's on to a place called the Stanford Newell House. And I didn't know, but in 2017, this place experienced a fire. So while I was there, they were renovating it. You see, they got some stuff going on with it, but a darn shame. It was built in 1864. The core of the building was 1864. By a man named Lasher during the Civil War, and he used locally quarried limestone. And then it was purchased in 1886 by Stanford Newell and upgraded with the tower and the battlements. So now on to the University of Minnesota Navy ROTC building in Minneapolis. It's the University of Minnesota's armory, and it was constructed in 1896. It originally served as the University Armory and Gymnasium, and over the years it has served various purposes. Now it is the home of the Naval ROTC and a gymnasium. It's kind of cool, huh? Beautiful building. So now, let me see, where am I at? Minnesota. Now our trek northwest. I head into a small city. I'm not sure if it's a large town or a small city called Fergus Falls. And it's interesting because did you catch the movie theater there on the right? These old American towns like this, just the movie theaters still hang in there. They're still around with the signs. But this is the State Mental Health Hospital, and it's purported to be haunted. There's a lot of stories of hauntings here. It's a beautiful building, a little bit different, and it was completed in 1907. But there are some semicircular portions on the left and the right of this building that's really quite unique. Worth more exploring, particularly if you like haunted castles. But that's it. Now I am ending the journey north. We've pretty much bifurcated the country here, following roughly the Mississippi River, and we've done all of the east. And I'm ending this all off in Fargo, North Dakota. And I only went, now there's a lot to do and see in North Dakota, but I only went to Fargo. From there I'm going to be dipping down into South Dakota to do our swing west towards the Pacific Ocean. And the only thing I got for you here from Fargo, other than the movie, if you haven't seen it, it's interesting. This is another place that probably has very long and very cold winters. But I got here, the weather was pretty good. There's some place called the Unicorn Park. And I've modified the sign there if you want to see what I did to the sign rules for the park. But that's it. So, that's it. We are going to be going west in the next video. We're going to start my trek west. And you're going to see how the terrain significantly changes to, look at that, to prairies. Just amazing. America has just about every kind of terrain you can think of. It's just amazing. And I love the prairies. You would think there's nothing to see, but they have a certain magic about them. And I got, cattle and prairie dogs and all kinds of stuff. And I even stop at a little house on the prairie. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. Thanks for sticking with me all this time. If you ever wanted to travel, I say figure it out, make it happen, I could use your support on Patreon. Even if it's just $1 a month, it helps. I have a bunch of patrons. My thanks to them for your support. Come visit my website. If you want to see more pictures and stuff and information and articles I've written about America, be sure to check out the link in the description of this video for my web pages. I have hundreds of web pages all about the journey, the experience, the travel, and the different things, and much more pictures and stuff. Thank you. Subscribe and hit that bell.